everyone, it's Hunter and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, it's so nice to meet you. Today's video, I am going to be sharing with you guys my book recap for September. I have done an absolutely horrible job of getting videos up recently, but one video I'm never gonna miss is my book recap, even if it's a little bit late. So I have my book journal here and I'm super excited to share with you guys the books I read in September. It's October now. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm gonna put the book covers here. So the first book that I read was The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton. And this was such an interesting book to me. It took me forever to actually get through it, but it is set in the near future and it follows the story of Wanda, who was a child born in the middle of a devastating hurricane. And it's actually really ironic that I was reading this because on September 27th, the Hurricane Helene hit my area, and while my house and my family are safe, there are plenty of people even just an hour north of me who have everything is completely devastated with their homes and their families and supplies and things like that. So I just thought it was very ironic that I was reading that at the same time. But anyway, basically Florida is slipping away. Kirby and Frida are her parents. They are prepping for a hurricane, and then Kirby's boys go missing right before the storm hits, and Kirby goes looking for them while Frida gives birth alone. And then Wanda grows up as Florida unravels. So I wrote that this, I think, will be a classic one day. It is very different than a lot of books that are set in the near future. A lot of books that have similar like vibes, I guess, would be like post-apocalyptic type things, but most of the post-apocalyptic type books are because of war or weapons or something like that, like human destruction. And in this book, it is caused by slowly but then rapidly changing weather patterns and natural disasters. So within the book, Florida basically disappears. California kind of works its way off the map. Lots of island nations are just gone completely. Lots of people die in different situations because they can't get the medical help that they need. They are trapped, there's flooding, etc., etc. And I said that it feels very dystopian future, but different from any other futuristic book, which is usually the world ending because of war and violence, but this is because of climate change. The changes are shocking and vivid and wild, and it goes through Wanda's entire life through 4 different elements and kind of tells the passage of time with literally from her birth all the way to her death at the end of the book, which I find fascinating. I got this book for free from Grand Central Publishing as an advanced reader's copy when it came out in 2022, but I just now got around to reading it, and I'm so glad that I read it when I did because it felt very, I don't know, like relevant to the current events. And I gave that one 5 stars. The next book I read was The Murder Rule by Dervla McTiernan, and the description I'm going to give you is literally straight off of the back page of the book. First rule, make them like you. Second rule, make them need you. Third rule, make them pay. I wrote that I really enjoyed this, and I felt like the beginning was pretty slow. I gave it 4 stars for this because the beginning was pretty slow and I was a little confused because it kind of jumps in with very little context, and it eventually tells the context, but like you literally know nothing, so it's just really confusing. I know it's normal to reveal things along the way, but I didn't like starting with absolutely nothing. The plot twist was great and I never really saw it coming, and I much appreciated the explanations given at the end to wrap things up. Overall, I really liked the investigation aspect of it, and I thought that it was solved really well. The next book I read was actually a reread, and it's The Match by Sarah Adams, and this is always just like the cutest thing ever. I love Sarah Adams books. I think that they're so cute and wholesome, and she's one of my favorite romance authors because of this. And most of her books are closed door, and if they're not closed door, it's super easy to skip over. So if you don't want to read anything that's like open door romance, you don't have to, which I really appreciate as a person who really appreciates closed door romance. But it is about Evie. She has epilepsy, and when she was diagnosed, her life was changed forever. She works for a service dog training company, and she matches people with the service dogs. She has a service dog on her own. She receives an email about Sam, who could benefit from a dog, and her dad Jake is skeptical but is willing to listen, and you know how it goes. So I said always the cutest. Sarah Adams is one of my faves. Her re-release was a little tiny bit different, but in the best way. Evie is the sweetest, and I love the descriptions of Charleston. I also love Jake's family and found family of Evie's. The next book I read was actually a short story, and it's Natural Selection by Ellen Hilderbrand, and this one was not at all what I was expecting, but I did give it 5 stars. stars. It's about Sophia, who is set to go on a cruise through the Galapagos with her boyfriend when he bails on her at the last minute for a family emergency. She spends lots of time worrying about him, but decides that she should try to enjoy herself on the trip anyway, because she is in one of the most scientifically diverse and studied places in the world. I said it was really good. Short stories often fall flat because there isn't enough time to elaborate, but I felt like the details of the trip were great, and Sophia also had great character development. Like I said, I feel like short stories typically fall flat because they just don't have the time that they need to elaborate and to really have good character development. The end of it was actually really shocking, and I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but I was really surprised, and overall I was happy with that quick little read. The next one I read was also a short story, and it was actually a satire, but it is The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie by Frida McFadden, and I gave this one 5 stars. I have begun to realize that Frida McFadden's writing is often cliche and it's very basic writing, so if you're trying to get back into reading with something that's rather fast-paced and a little bit easier to read, but I did really enjoy this one because it is a satirical novella. It's about Alice's husband who is dead, but he holds a very dark secret, and I said this was a quick way to shove as many cliches into one story as possible. It was hilarious, and while cliche, also kind of unpredictable at the same time. If I didn't know this was satire, I for sure would have thought it was the dumbest story I've ever read, but I really never knew where this was going, and each twist made me laugh so hard because it had so many elements of thriller novels in the most cliche way possible. I don't know, it was funny. It's on Kindle Unlimited if you want to read it. The next book I read was also completely unexpected. It is All the Little Raindrops by Mia Sheridan and Noelle. It starts with Evan and Noelle. They find themselves in a dark room in cages. As the days go by, they have to start to do horrible things to stay alive, but they continue to make sacrifices for each other as they work to find a way to escape their personal prison. And then there's a second part to the book where they flash forward to the future. 7 years later, they are out of their cages and they are working together to figure out what happened to them, how they got there, who's responsible, and things like that. I said this whole story was wild. I love that it was set in 2 parts during their captivity and years later. I love that Evan and Noelle are doing important things with their lives and that Evan is dedicated to figuring out what happened to them. They really are traumatized by their experience, but they are the only 2 people in the world who have similar experiences to each other, and I really appreciate that they had such a unique experience that only they can experience with each other. So anyway, I think that was everything I read. That actually feels like it wasn't that many books. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did I only read 6 books? Let me look real quick. Okay, no, those were not the only ones that I read. Okay, in my reading journal, I write down the book whenever I start reading it. So sometimes I finish it a lot later, and like, here's one that I didn't put the finish date on. Okay, 2 more, so it's 8 books actually. So actually the first one that I started reading out of this list is Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering. And this one is actually a show on Hulu, and I had no idea until I started reading this book. My husband got it for me for my birthday, and I just started reading it. It's about Lucy and Steven. Lucy is excited to start over in college when she meets Steven. She's enamored by him, but he has a dark past, and so does she. And they are absolutely wrong for each other, but cannot stay away from each other. And I said that I hate Steven. I feel like the whole time you're rooting for Lucy and Steven, but something also just feels wrong the whole time. This is the definition of a toxic relationship. She ruins so many aspects of her life chasing a guy who will never really love her. So there was that. I definitely had some, I like couldn't stop reading. It was like a train wreck, if you ask me. So anyway, also I probably should have given a spoiler warning. And the last book that I read, I have no idea when I finished it, is Bridesmaid Undercover by Megan Quinn. Every time I read a Megan Quinn book, I say this is the last one I'm reading because it's way too spicy for me. Her books do tend to be way spicier than my comfort level, but her books are always just so funny and the characters just make me laugh so much that I just can't help myself. This is about Hardy, who asks Everly to help him figure out if his ex Mabel still has feelings for him. Hardy and Maple used to date but broke up years ago, and now Maple is moving back to town and the only people in a bridal party for their best friends. Everly has been assigned to help Maple be the maid of honor, and she also has a massive crush on Hardy. I feel like that was a very long description, and that was really confusing. So Bridesmaid Undercover is the second book in the Bridesmaids for Hire series. So Everly works for a wedding planning company that also offers bridesmaids for hire type situations. Basically just someone who can be a help to bridesmaids and to a bride, but that's just hired instead of being like an actual friend bridesmaid. And Hardy is the best man in the wedding, and Maple is the maid of honor. And Hardy knows that Everly is helping with the wedding stuff, so he's like, I need you to figure out if Maple's still into me so I can ask her out, that kind of thing. But anyway, I said it was very cute. I always find Megan Quinn's books to be super funny. The spice also didn't start until about 75% of the way through the book, which made me really happy. I loved Hardy as a playful guy, and I loved how important Everly's career was to her. I, however, don't love a misunderstanding trope. There was a bit of a misunderstanding trope, and I hate misunderstandings, especially when you're adults. Just talk to each other, you know? Anyway, with that being said, that was the last book I read. So 8 books in September wasn't too bad. I'm almost finished with my Goodreads goal for the year. I've read 92 books so far, and I'm about to finish book number 93. So I think I'm actually gonna finish it once I finish filming this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you guys read any of these books, let me know if you liked them, and if you have any other book recommendations, I'd love to check them out. I love thrillers and I love romance. So that's all I have, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.